Hey guys, what's up? It's Schla coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with Schla, and I'm here to talk to ya about something I've already talked to ya about a million times before, but I'm just thinking about it. So it's that video I never made. The video I never made about how our interactions with passive content have changed the way our brains deal with content. Sorry, that's not. They changed the way our brains deal with things. So, nowadays you can obviously just have a TV show running in the background. You don't actually have to do anything about that. You just have your TV show running and you listen to parts of it, but you don't actually listen to all of it. Maybe you're scrolling TikTok while you're watching your TV show. Everybody has their own things, I suppose. And yeah. That's it. That's what you do. We would have never been able to do something like this before. If you were watching a show, the only way you would have seen a show for most of human history was to actually physically go to the show to watch it. And I don't know. I don't really think our brains are meant for that ability to not perceive that distinction. I mean, it's even when you get into things like food delivery, I don't know how much our brain really, I think it's too good for our brains. Like, you should probably have to at least drive to get your food if you're going to get food. Because, getting food is already a treat. And then when you get delivery, it's I never really got food delivered to me very often. I can remember one time my dad got a pizza for us. But that was a special moment, and I always remember that. I think people, we just we overdo it with these things. Getting DoorDash every single day, for example. And I mean, DoorDash has really been the next level. That's not even, it's actually a way more, I want to say, addictive experience than the others. It just is. You have all this selection. It's not just one place that you're picking. It's organized in a way that's better than the other ways. There's a lot it's got going for it. It's definitely a lot. So, yeah. It's addictive. And I think really with anything that's special, we have the tendency to just want to abuse it. That really tends to be how humans like to go about these things. We just abuse it. We just overdo it. Because a lot of times we can't even help ourselves, or there isn't really much self-control or conscious behind it. And That's really what happens. But I think in the case of food delivery, it's too dangerous. It's too potent of an activity. And that's really the problem. I mean, you have to think about, for any other point in humanity, you would never be able to. It really, what it is it's a glitch in reality's system. It's actually, to your mind, it's a glitch. It's obviously in our overworld, it's not a glitch because you work for your money and then you have money. But in your mind, it functions as a glitch because in your mind, you're really supposed to have to work to get food. You're not just supposed to be able to get it. That's not really something, food is supposed to be very valuable. Food is supposed to be something that maybe you don't always obtain. If you were hunting for an animal, what if you don't end up being able to get any and you come home empty-handed? Then what? Then you wouldn't eat. I guess the same thing can happen at the store. I guess they might not have the food you want and then you'd have to come home empty-handed. But I think you get the premise of what I'm saying. Food used to take, I mean, a really significant amount of effort, especially to get a tasty meal, which, bear in mind, like the meals that, like the tastiest meal in the past was probably meat, but you didn't really have access to much seasoning or anything like that. Nowadays, you can immediately purchase food that is very special, food that's super special. Immediately. And I mean, it tastes great, or even if it doesn't taste amazing, there's a good amount of variety on the menu, and you have all these different places to go to. Does any of this not seem really excessive? Because it should. Given where we've been at for most of our lives, this should be very excessive. I mean, not our lives, but our lives as a species. It's really incredible that this is the point we've gotten to. It is. A lot of people, again, like, they don't really care or notice it, but it's pretty strange. It's pretty strange all that we've been able to do. The luxuries that we have and enjoy. It's all very strange. Maybe we weren't even supposed to, really. I don't know. But nobody stops to think about these things. And so now when food doesn't taste good, it's terrible. We can't eat it. I've dealt with people I just can't eat that. Then food goes to waste. It's the consequence of indulging in the roller coaster. You have food that tastes amazing, and then it becomes difficult to tolerate food that doesn't taste good. Now, I think people have a variance when it comes to awareness of these things. I think some people, not many people, I haven't met other people like me with repetitive palates. But I know they're out there, and I know that there's also people who can enjoy a novel food and not be stuck with it, because I know I exist, and I'm sure I'm not that special. So it's like there are certain people, but I also know a lot of people where they don't have a coherent meal schedule, which is very jarring for me as somebody who has one. I just can't imagine having to deal with that. That just sounds like a disaster to me. Well, and it kind of was back when people get very lazy. People get very lazy. And so they don't have anything to eat, and they don't feel like making any food, and then they might just not because they don't feel like it. Like, it becomes this whole disaster because people aren't really prepared to manage these things. Now, I figured out a system for myself where this never happens anymore because I just always have food. But again, for some people, that's not good enough. They wouldn't be able to follow my system because they have to have the novelty. They have to have the different taste. They would get tired of the same thing. And so then they have to work for it. Or they can cheat and just get food out, which, again, is what I'm saying is it's glitching your mind because your mind is going to think that a really good meal is going to take time. That's what your mind's going to think. Your mind. But we eventually have moments in our lives where we get the food out and we kind of get caught in that framework. The framework of, oh, I didn't have to do anything and I just got this great, amazing food. I'm going to want to do this again. This was really high dopamine. I want to do it again. And you kind of, when you figure that much out, you kind of figure how a lot of these places are traps. You know, fast food and restaurants, and they're more akin to a dopaminergic trap than they are a business that is really being all that helpful. It's interesting to think about it in that way, isn't it? We tend to not think about things in that way. But, you know. That is what it is. And then it reinforces a lazier behavior, and it's creating enslavement for another person. Because we reduce another's abilities down to just being able to prepare cheap food. I've had to have this conversation with other people before, and the truth is that if we didn't spend money on fast food or these industries that don't really generate good karma, the money could go elsewhere. That money could be spent on, instead of needing to work at McDonald's, somebody could be an artist and make art. And with the money we freed up by not going to McDonald's, because, you know, as a consumer, let's say I spend $20 a week at McDonald's, that $20 a week could go to somebody's art. I could be buying something on Etsy, supporting an artist. There's probably better, different examples of this concept, but the labor that people do is based on what people are interested in and buying. And to me, the food thing is just a very low potential or low manifestation of what a human is really capable of. A human really could spend their money on many different things, and to spend it on an inefficient food retrieval system is not, I wouldn't say that's at the top of the list for humanity really making some progress, especially because the food is not typically very healthy for obvious reasons. Why does any of this matter? I guess, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It ends up affecting, I guess, a person's independence, to be tethered to these systems. It affects a person's independence. But, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what does it really matter. I mean, am I necessarily happier, or do these systems exist because they bring a lot of human happiness? None of these systems are optimal, but obviously there's a magnetism towards them. There's a gravitation. I just think that when you know what you know about humanity and its systems, it just seems like it's a ethical issue, But I guess I've talked about before, I'm not really sure. I mean, there's kind of two ways of looking at it. It's like, on one hand, it's like, well, if God created us, then we should respect this world. I mean, because, yeah, and that's probably true. Because you're supposed to treat your body like a temple. And downstream of that, you would obviously want to treat your surroundings like a temple too, I would assume. But I don't know how much material matters to God. I think it just matters because it ends up negatively impacting other people, when we engage in these systems or activities. Like I said, you have to think about it that way. Not in a way of hoarding money, which, that's typically how it is. Oh, well, I just eat all at the grocery store, so I save a bunch of money. You know, that's typically how it's laid out, but it shouldn't be about the self. That's why people do these things. It's for their own good. It's out of a selfishness that they save money so that they have more money for themselves. I don't think that's how we need to look at things. We have to look at things as we're saving money, but we're saving money for using the money for better things, not just to arbitrarily save it. Because that's really where it seems like most people are at. They just save because they just save, and they're not thinking about how the money could be used differently. They probably just want more money so they can buy more fast food and make their own life better. And that's pretty much it. Like, they're not really thinking in the way I am, which is an understanding that money shouldn't really be hoarded, as it kind of messes up the system a little bit when it's just hoarded too much. Now, I have mentioned before, I am in favor of a degree of meritocracy or elitism, because I do think certain people are probably more qualified to spend a given amount of money and maybe allocate the resources wiser. However, that would have to stem from a purely meritocratic evaluation system. No, I guess it would just be valuation system. It would just, you couldn't have the way it is now and have it turn into what I'm talking about. Because as it is now, I don't think there is a true correlation. I mean, there is to some extent, but I think for the most part, there is not a true correlation there's not a true correlation. There are some rich people that may have not had any actual skill or reason to be there. I think the usual example I give is you have celebrities and then you have the celebrity's child. But typically, and again, it's not always, but typically, the celebrity's child does not really amount to much, yet they're still given a lot of resources and money, and just, it doesn't really make sense. It just doesn't really make sense, because the only reason they have a platform is because they're the child of a celebrity. But that person doesn't necessarily have talent. They don't necessarily have character. And they're not ever really going to be better than their parents. I'm sure there's exceptions to this, but again, it's just how genetics work and how a lot of these factors, they're random. They don't occur you have two people with good genetics and then now their child's going to have great genetics too. That really does not work so clearly, It doesn't really work all that clearly. So what do we do? What do we do with all this? Well, that's why I'm saying it's the certain people themselves who are special people. Maybe they should have a little extra money. But it shouldn't be their child now also just has a bunch of extra money just because of association. That I don't think that's good for society at all. It may be good for the parent knowing that their child is set, but that's not really good for the species, you know? It's rotting. It rots the system. It rots our species, you know? And that's the way we have to start thinking, is less about ourselves and our children and our legacy and more about humanity's legacy and designing and executing these systems that will work in the interest of being able to build up humanity's legacy, not just our own. Have to begin to step away from just thinking about our own legacy and think about how do we make a system and a species that lasts, that's going to be able to stand the test of time, that's efficient, not just a system where we're going to be able to keep our kids safe, but then like, oh, well, everybody else's kid, they're going to have to work and they're going to have to... That's not fair. That doesn't make any sense. And honestly, nobody... Well, I guess I'm going to push back. I think some people probably do deserve extra free time. Some people, I think, would just burn their free time. Other people don't. So it kind of gets complicated. Because, like, you want to just make everything fair, but I'm a little bit hesitant for that. Like, I think there's certain people... I mainly think of, like, scientists where... You know, I do think the world would be a better place if those institutions were just better funded or those people were given more free time. I think that would generally be good, you know. It would generally be good. I can't really see why it wouldn't. But yeah, just, I don't know. It's very frustrating because that is how people think and thought, how people thought and how they still think, you know? They think in this way. And then the other thing too is, what even will last? Like, you can be as successful as possible, and hypothetically your child could just blow everything that you worked for. I'm sure it happens. But again, I don't really see how it's fair that happens, and then, you have people like actually working who can't squeak by. It's just something's wrong with that. And you could take the workload off of some people and distribute it a little bit better. That's like the whole thing. You could distribute the whole thing better. And I think that would be it would just be a better system. I don't really see why some people need to be super special and super great, and then other people have to work 2 jobs. If it depends, like if a person is specifically special, then that's another thing. But like I said, I think there's certain people that maybe like philosophers or scientists or people that are really trying to make some kind of a contribution, then I think that's completely fine. But a lot of times, not only are the current systems not conducive for these types of people, it's not generating that type of a person, but it's also doesn't reward it. It rewards you to just be productive, to be a good worker. That's what you're rewarded to do. That's what we're taught. That's what we're pushed to do. We're pushed to be good workers. We're pushed to be productive workers. When there's lots of important things that are not based on brutal productivity. There are things that just aren't based on that. Some things take time. Some things may be inefficient, observably inefficient, but they take time, and in the long run, it would be worth it. But it's hard for us to witness that. It's more impressive if somebody just can do a bunch of work. And this is why over time you see less of an emphasis put into the arts, because they don't really do anything for somebody. You're not providing a service to anybody immediately. And so it doesn't really feel very good. It feels like you're kind of off doing your own thing. I think there's an envy too. I honestly think in modernity there's an envy to people who do art. There's an envy. Whereas if you're doing something for another person, well, that's, people like that. So I think people like people kind of being stuck. I think the elites in the world like their advantage that they have over other people. You know, I think they enjoy that feeling of having an advantage over another person. And that's why we see what we see. People like that feeling. People like it. That they have an advantage and that other people can't be artists because it's like their own, they're successful, but they might not be an artist. And so they want to do whatever they can to secure their success and to maintain it. But what if they're not actually an artist and they don't have any genuine potential? I mean, it's not necessarily going to result in anything good or important. And so people who are in wealthy positions can restrict others by keeping people stuck in 9-to-5 traps. And then you can't really have people break out of that or be too impressive, and it maintains an elite rule over things. Because as I explained, really how it would work is it's not, you can't really get wealthy in a generation. You could just get wealthy for your kid. That's all that you can really do. Like you can't actually get wealthy. Like that's not a possibility anymore these days, or at least it's extremely unlikely. It's extremely unlikely that you would be able to get to that point. So ooh, that was lucky. Ooh, that was lucky. We got lucky. All right. Anyways, lots and lots of things to talk about. Lots and lots of things. And for some reason, my microphone thing, it's not fitting right anymore. I'm not really sure what I did to it. I didn't do anything to it. It's just, I didn't even notice it at all yesterday, so I'm not sure what could have happened, what possibly could have happened to this poor thing, but yeah. Poor guy, poor guy. All right. Well, it's been schla, and now it's time to buy schla. So, see you, Shla.